Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Sideline Eye podcast. We have a different show for you this week. We're going to look back at a historic day for Armagh football when the under-21 team won the first ever under-21 All-Ireland for the county. The second ever Ulster title came before that. And we're delighted to be joined by Ronan Austin, who was part of that team and got a crucial goal in the All-Ireland final against Mayo. And Paddy Savage is with us here as well. And we'll reflect on that great team, quality under-21 team, and we'll talk. Ronan will talk us through the season and how they got to be All-Ireland champions. So Ronan, thanks very much for joining us, and thanks for taking your time out. I suppose just to start, is it a good? You're obviously the Clan Gael captain last season, and I assume you're staying on for another year to get a go at it. Is it a good year? You ended up intermediate champions.
It was a strange year. It was stop-start and stuff, but the outcome's what we wanted. We wanted to win the intermediate championship. We've been trying to do it for, I think, 8 or 9 years, and we kept falling short or just not playing as well as we could have. But thankfully this year we all turned up and won it. It was a great win now.
And hopefully, like we say, every week on the podcast, we'll be back into competitive action sometime sooner rather than later. But Ronan, yeah, you joined us to talk about this under-21 team, and we'll just get a look at it here. You beat Tyrone in the Ulster semi-final, and Tyrone had a strong team at that stage. They were on for 5 in a row Ulster titles, and you stopped that after extra time.
Yeah, that was a great game down in Dungannon. Tyrone seniors had just won the All-Ireland in 2003, and Sean Kavanagh was becoming a household name, so he would have been the biggest threat. But Peter Rafferty, he was cute enough manager. He put a fella called Shane O'Neill, he's better known as Wavin from Drummondhay, on them. He never gave him a kick of it. That game went into extra time, and Sean Kavanagh was anonymous throughout it. Wavin had a brilliant game. Fair play to Peter for recognising that. It's a great game.
We know now, looking back, what a great Armagh team that was beating that Tyrone team that had obviously been there before, done that. Did that give you an incentive to push on and not only win Ulster, but push on and win All-Ireland then?
Well, beating Tyrone, as you said, they were going for 5 in a row, and beating them definitely gave us a big lift. We're going in the Ulster final to play a very, very strongly fancied Derry team. I think Derry were favourites to win the Ulster regardless if they were playing Tyrone or not at that time. So beating Tyrone sort of let people know Armagh's worth talking about too. You know, we're here, we're going to fight for it too.
On that Derry game then, Ronan, you had a good game yourself. You got 2 goals in the first half, and that sort of won you the game. It was nearly over at half time.
Yeah, the game was over at half time. I remember vaguely, I don't want to quote anybody, but Martin McHugh had wrote in the Irish News that Armagh maybe, to paraphrase, but see if we're not turning up. You know, this Derry team were going to be too strong, they're too physical, they're too good, and I think he actually said at the end of it, I hope it's a nice day for the Armagh fans to enjoy the weather more than the football. Now, we didn't really use that as to give us a boost or nothing. We're in Ulster final, we're there to win it, but we knew what we're capable of, knew the players ahead, and the results sort of showed how that went. So that, yeah, I got 2 goals the first half. I think I got 2-4 the first half. I never scored the second half, but with the game over at half time, after that, Derry were dead, and we just seen the game out. Went on to win the Ulster.
And Paddy, at that stage, obviously, young club man Kieran McKeever, he was the captain. It must have been a proud moment, obviously for Armagh, but for Cullyhanna as well, seeing McKeever going up to lift the cup.
Oh, definitely. Bricky's been involved in an awful lot of things like that over the years. That international rules. We'll go on to talk about the Ireland final, and then Malachy as well was a massive part of that team. So, yeah, definitely. Funny enough, up to that stage, we wouldn't have had, certainly in the likes of 77 and 2002. We didn't really have from our club. We didn't really have players on the team with somebody back in 53. But so yeah, look, it was great for us. Armagh football was at on the crest of wave at that stage. It was great to see them young players coming through and representing the county.
And Ronan, you went on to play Cork then in the All-Ireland semi-final. Obviously, there was no quarterfinals. Under-21 was knockout. was there a sense after winning Ulster and winning it so convincingly that you could go and win All Ireland, or how did you react going into that All Ireland semi-final?
Well, we won the Ulster in March. The Cork game wasn't until September. There was a 6-month break between the Ulster final and the All Ireland semi-final. So the management team just sort of let us go to our clubs. You know, we didn't even meet up in them 6 months. We just went with our clubs, did what we had to do, and then when the club season was over, we got together and trained for the semi-final. So in a way, it was like 2 different seasons, completely 2 different competitions. Obviously, you know, we had the Ulster one in March, and then as we were playing for our clubs and all, we weren't really thinking about All Ireland semi-finals and stuff until we met up together again as a group at the late August, early September. And the Cork game was down in Galway. So Cork was our only focus. It wasn't the All Ireland, it was just Cork. They had beat Kerry in the Munster final. Peter had went to it. Peter and the management team went to it and said Cork were a serious outfit. You know, bigger than Tyrone, bigger than Derry, stronger, great footballers, and would need to be at our very best to beat them, and we were. I would say the Cork game, out of all our games, was the most complete performance we put in as a team that day. I've done a wee bit of Google searching today. I couldn't remember the score offhand, but it was 119 to 220. It was such a game of football. I would love to have it in video. I don't. Such a game of football. 2 great teams just going out, no sweepers, no nothing, just man on man, best team won. And on that day, we were the best team, without a doubt.
And was it difficult maybe meeting the likes of Cork that obviously you had never met before, you wouldn't have played, maybe you had played Tyrone at minor, or you know, the same with Derry, or maybe at underage competitions, but with Cork, like, you never would have met them, you didn't know anything about them really, but as you say, Peter Rafferty and his management team went to watch them. Yeah.
Well, the only thing we knew about Cork was the big Kerry, and when you some Kerry players, household names at the time were playing, Darren O'Sullivan and stuff. But no, Peter had went, he had studied them, he had looked at their strengths, looked at their weaknesses, but we knew if we just played our strengths that it wouldn't matter if we were playing the pick of Kerry and Cork. On our day, we were capable of beating any of them.
Ronan, sorry, just
go ahead, Paddy.
I know. I was just wondering, Ronan. You see, obviously you mentioned that 6 months, and you know, anyway, from 2004, the thing you'll always remember from an Armagh perspective as well as on the 21s win is that shock game against Fermanagh, and just, you know, there's probably, to be honest, I've always thought that was the year Armagh really should have got the second All Ireland. But you see in hindsight now, for the under 21 perspective, obviously you had some boys involved in the senior panel. Do you think it helped you at all that, you know, rather than maybe getting the semi-final, or Armagh in the previous 2 finals, that having those extra few weeks, you know, for boys to sort of regain focus and you know, start thinking about the under 21s, that was maybe a wee bit of a help for you looking back?
Okay, it was surely. Andy Mullen would have been the main man who would have been starting for Armagh back then. He played in the 03 final. Andy Mullen, Kieran McKeever might have been playing in 04 again for Armagh. But no, definitely, I know Armagh was beat and it was unfortunate for the seniors and all, but the extra couple of weeks and stuff did give the under 21 lads, because there was 5 or 6 on the senior panel then. So there was, I tried to think of who they were the day, but there was Aaron and Stephen were on it. Paul Duffy might have been on it. Malachy Mackin, you know. So definitely that sort of, I'm not saying Fermanagh was a good thing for the under 21s. I'm sure if they went on, they still would have had contributed just as well. But no, it did give us a couple of weeks to get back, to get a wee break, to see out the club championships and get back in the under 21s. Definitely, yeah.
And did that help you, is the fact that you had these boys that had been experienced playing senior, like as you said, Andy Mullen had already experienced the senior All Ireland. The likes of Kieran McKeever and Aaron Kiernan were up playing senior. Like nowadays, you have to choose whether you want to play senior or you want to play under 20s as it is now. Was that a help that these boys were coming down and had already played at senior level?
Definitely. I remember, I know we're talking about the Cork game on the Gap, but I remember coming into the final, we had a team meeting one night and Andy Mullen was asked to talk to the group. He had played in the 03 final against Tyrone. So he was asked to give us a talk just about his experience, about the final day, about the crowd, about media, about family, about tickets, just generally about everything. And I know it helped a good few of the players, but it definitely helped me. You know, we're living in Lurgan on a big Lurgan contingent on the under 21 panel. Leaning on Andy's shoulder for a wee bit of help and advice, that definitely helped. So yeah, that was a great thing. Their experience coming down from senior level definitely was a good thing. Yeah.
And Ronan, you got off to a great start in the final then, against Mayo. Stephen Kiernan got an early penalty. I think it might have been the first score of the game. Stephen Kiernan got a penalty and scored it, and then you got a goal yourself. And we're going to take a look at that goal here. We have it up on the screen. You're obviously in full forward. Most people probably know you as a midfielder, but you were in full forward in this team. Stephen Kiernan launches a long ball in, you catch it and put it in the net. Was that a tactic you would have used, or was it a plan for this game?
I don't think Stephen Kiernan ever launched too many balls. He knew exactly what he was doing with football when he had one in his hands, so I'll give him that. The full forward line at the time was myself, Mickey McNamee and Brian Mullen. And Brian Mullen played out round the middle, winning breaking ball and setting up attacks and stuff. So me and Mickey in there at a time with no sweepers and stuff. Not saying it was a tactic, it was just the smart thing to do. We'd won a free kick there, he took it quick, he seen it as available and he put it in. And as you can see, the goal there, I was criticised for maybe having a few more steps than is legally allowed, but my argument was I was being fouled for 13 out of the 17 of them. So no, it was a good ball in. It was a percentage ball in. There was a big man in the edge of the square, and if I didn't catch it clean, Mickey was like a wee crab. He was going to scoop it up one way or another. So I remember that goal well now. It was a good goal. It was a good ball, and it set us up well. I think that put us 2 forward and not 1 or not 2 or something up. It was looking like it was going to be like the Derry game all over again, just blow them away. Yeah,
that goal, it was 2-3 to 2 points then after that goal.
Mm-hmm.
So it was 7 points between you. But obviously Mayo, they did come back into the game. It proved not to be like the Derry game. They did come back into it and make it tighter. Was that maybe, did you as a team feel that after that second goal that this was going to be a cakewalk and it was going to be the same as the Derry game over at half time?
Yeah, it's hard to say that you feel like that on a football pitch. No matter how early you go up. Even again Derry, we just kept chipping away at the scores. But Mayo were a serious outfit too. They had county players that went on to represent that senior level for years and years. Andy Moran was playing. He got Player of the Year 2 or 3 years ago in Ireland. We went 2-3 to not 2 up. I think we took our chances and Mayo didn't. That was the difference. It wasn't that we were blowing them away. It's just that we were taking our chances. We had a penalty. Stephen topped over a 50 as well. And by that time I had scored a goal and a point. Actually, my point was probably a better goal chance than my goal was. So it was. Stephen had played an all long ball in, and I'd only the keeper to beat. But it was early in the game. I wanted on the ball early. I wanted to score on the board and do the right thing early on and work myself into the game. But I watched that video a couple of times, and I just sort of shouted myself into myself that it didn't score. My goal should have been a point, and my point should have been a goal. Look at it that way. But no, Mayo were a very, very, very good team, and if we hadn't got that start, we wouldn't have been All-Ireland champions, without a doubt. If we hadn't got that goal and Stephen's penalty, Mayo would have won the All-Ireland that year.
And Paddy obviously said about the good Cullyhanna men on the team, but obviously as an Armagh man, it must have been very exciting seeing an Armagh team reaching an All-Ireland final at under-21 level.
Oh, definitely, yeah. In Armagh, we haven't won too many of those competitions. Like, at that stage, we won 1 senior and 1 minor, and we never won the under-21. You didn't. Again, you're sort of spoiled. I was sort of late teens, early 20s, around those sort of glory years. Like, and you don't really like that. Have been three All-Ireland finals. Armagh were in 3 years in a row. 2 seniors and 2 seniors and under-21. And I suppose just that, you see that final, I mean, I suppose the one thing I was wondering, Ronan, when you were saying about the great start that he's made, I know Mayo did lost the final 6 days previous on the Sunday. Was that something you should focused on, going, look, that they're if you can get a good start here, that'll maybe put them under pressure, that they'll have had a lot of the players, maybe some involved in the senior panel, or the whole focus was away from them until relatively recently?
Yeah, it's not something we would have talked about in team meetings or in huddles or anything that got a training. Peter was good like that. We concentrated on ourselves, on our own strengths. Mayo were beating the All-Ireland final that year. Yes, they had a couple of players involved. But we just believed in ourselves. We just believed that if we turned up on the day, that we could go like that for 60 or 70 minutes. It either could have been a blitz or it wasn't. Mayo come back strong, but no, we focused on ourselves. We didn't really concern ourselves too much with Mayo's woes or their hoodie on their back or their All-Ireland final history. It was just about ourselves and what we were going to do.
A career Ronan, I had a look there. I think 8 steps. I think he took 8 steps.
Legal steps and 4 illegal ones.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it was, no. It wasn't that bad. It wasn't nearly as bad as you were making it out. I think it was 8 steps.
It's how quick I actually moved them. They were hard to count. It was just going on.
That's it. But I'll tell you what, I just watched the goal again there, and Sean, you're going to be in trouble now. I'm not sure you'll get Kieran McKeever back on the podcast because I see you managed to show the. show the clip of the goal, but didn't show his long burst and run out of defence where he he takes the ball out of the corner, he then just throws a free off a fellow that's trying to tackle him. It's probably no free at all, and then Stephen Kernan takes the free and Ronan catches it. But I suppose the other thing that really struck me, Sean, was that if you look at some of the highlights back of those long raking balls, the likes of John McEntee used to play to Steve McDonald and Ronan Clark. You gotta. It was just the exact same playbook. There for that goal. Different players in a different team.
And that's maybe just the way the game was played, Ronan. That if you had the man on the edge of the square, you pumped the ball in on top of him.
Yeah, that there was the whole tactic of the diagonal ball at that time. A ball out the right wing went to the left corner, out the left wing went to the right corner. So you knew where to make your run, you knew where the ball was going. And it didn't have to be an overly accurate pass, it just had to be in your favour. And I think Joe Kiernan in 2002 with Armagh sort of maximised that ball in the Clark and Stevie McDonald and Morrison and them boys. So it was a no-brainer. There's a ball, an easy ball in that is in favour of the forward that works. And if you do it right and do it early enough, you have a good chance of getting a score off it.
And you have spoke about him there a couple of times, Ronan. Peter Rafferty, he was obviously the manager. How big was he for you? How important was he in getting you over the line?
Well, personally for me, there was nobody like Peter back then. Actually, going into that season, I never played against Tyrone. So I didn't. I had done my hamstring at senior training, Armagh senior training. So Peter was great with me personally there, in the lead up to it. Before the Ulster final, we had an in-house game in Derrynoose, AVB, and I was on the B team, as in full forward. And if Andy Wann's going to be watching this or listening to it, he won't mind me saying, but I completely roasted him in the first half. And Peter called me into the change room at half time at the A team and says, I'm going to put you out here for the second half, see how you get on. And I done well, and next thing in the Ulster final, I was starting. So I have Peter to thank for that. Even still to this day, I would never go and play the Grange or never have the Grange in Lurgan without making sure I get a chat with Peter. He was a great man manager. He was a great tactician. He knew to put Shane O'Neill, sort of on Sean Kavanagh, hammer the hammer, so to speak. Don't worry about what's going on around you. You're on Sean Kavanagh. He knew that Shane Wavin was probably the only player in our team disciplined enough and able enough to do that. So Peter could recognise that and say that. He was he was a great man manager. He was a great tactician. He was a great manager, and I have nothing but respect for him. As a matter of fact, it's worth saying that one of the first, after Clans won the Intermediate Championship there, one of the first people to text me was Peter, congratulating me, and that's just testament to him himself and the relationship we've kept over this last 16, 17 years,
I suppose that is nice to see that that team is sort of stuck together and still have that good relationship. And Paddy, we're going to take a look at that team, and anybody that knows it knows what a quality team it was, and plenty of recognisable names there. I think, if you were going through it, 90% of the lads had been on to represent Armagh at some stage, and a lot of household names at club level there as well. Like this is an unbelievable under-21 team, isn't it?
Definitely. The one thing, a bit of a look at the game there, and the defending from Armagh was absolutely outstanding. Particularly in that first half. So actually, it was very wet. It seemed to be Ronan, it was bad enough out there. It seemed slippy enough conditions. There was a lot of sort of handling going astray and that.
Yeah, it wasn't so much wet or windy or nothing, but the pitch was like a bog. It was very heavy. It cut up very bad. Yeah, it was Breffney Park. It was like it was very soft and very heavy. It didn't stop me moving so quick to rattle the net, but it, if it was a dry day, I might only needed 4 steps. But anyway, no, you were saying about the defending. You were watching it.
Yeah.
I think now, if I remember, I think in the first half, Armagh defence made 17 blocks.
Yeah.
In the first half alone, and see that goal you said about Kieran McKeever running out of defence first, a long bursting run. That the lead up to that goal was like a game of rugby. There must have been 4 or 5 blocks and tackles and blocks and tackles and blocks and tackles before it got to Stephen to kick it in. So the defence definitely a lot of admiration and a lot of credit due to the defence.
Yeah, and
but Paul came in there and played instead of, or Barry McDonald got injured early on, and Paul Duff, another household name in club in county, came in the left half back early in the first half.
So if you look there then of that, you say when Paul Duffy comes in, you've got a back line there, 5 of the 6, Finian Moriarty, Andy Mallon, Aaron Kieran, Kieran McKeever and Paul Duffy. Like if you add up the amount of Armagh senior appearances they must have had over the next 10, 15 years, it'd be colossal, like from having any under 21 team. But like that was just interesting you mentioned that, Ronan. I was just watching it back. It is so obvious, just the amount of blocking. Like you would never see it in the game now. It's probably because obviously teams are trained more, not to be trying not to take the balls into tackles, don't kick unless it's definitely on. But like it was so noticeable. The amount of blocking you do. Actually, funny enough, the Mayo goal that they got towards the end, it actually came. That ball was the shot was blocked as well, and it was saved by the goalkeeper, and there was just a sort of a melee, and it got kicked into the back of the net. But the Armagh defence had to be really good, because you scored that goal, Ronan. I was looking at the time. You scored after about 22 minutes, and that was Armagh up on the 2-3, ticking over full time. Not full time, but at the end of normal time, ticking into sort of 61 minutes, Armagh only scored 2-6. So in that whole time, Armagh only got another 3 points. So to try to keep Mayo out, obviously the defending, it had to be heroic, and you can really, it's a real exhibition of defending from Armagh when you watch the game back. And as I said, Sean, you picked up, particularly in terms of those 5 lads that were in the defence for most of the game. The careers they went on to have were just exceptional, by any standards.
I think it's worth noting on that. I think, Paddy, there was an instance in the first half that Mayo were on the attack, and I think they went to kick a long ball in, and I think it was Gareth Swift got a block, and the Mayo man got the rebound and went to kick it again, and Brian Mullen got the block. So like they would be 2 recognised forwards coming back. Was that what the team was about, Ronan? That it was a team effort, like everybody obviously not playing blanket defences or sweepers or anything like that, but everybody had to do their own work.
Yeah, well, you just had to weigh in where you could. I didn't, as full forward with Mickey Mack, but as I said earlier, Brian Mullen was brought out around the middle for that purpose. He was an absolute workhorse. He got the nickname later on as the Bull. He just ran through and ran out everything he seen to get the ball. Nippy Swift, he was midfield. Him and Malachi Mackin. You had 2 probably scoring midfielders playing, but they weren't shy of doing the work in the back line either. But the whole back line unit, I'm sure Stephen Kiernan made a drop, but Gregory Locker and Peter Toll, they were all just doing what they had to do to get the ball and get it forward and get a score on the board as quick as they can. It's interesting you say about the scoring there. I never really thought about that. We only scored like 3 or 4 points for about 40 minutes of the game. I never really realised that. All I know is the second half, Mayo put us under serious pressure. Like I got tucked off with about 10 minutes to go, and I was going off shivering. It was cold. I don't think the ball was down that far for most of the second half. But that shows you how well our defence worked and how tidy unit. And like Mayo were a good team, and as I said earlier, the early start won us the All Ireland. It definitely did, yeah.
I was wondering about that, Ronan, when I was just watching the game back there. What's that like? Because like Armagh looked in, you were always sort of 4 or 5 points up, and then just having to watch on, like you've done all you can do, and then just watching them scoring that goal and coming back. And to be honest, there were a couple of good chances to go ahead and nearly could have won. I assume that must be just some of the most excruciating few minutes here, of your life.
Yeah, Malachy got injured too. He was took off. Oran Kieran was took off. But no, it's hard. I haven't been in too many finals to realise that the game's sort of slipping away from you. I've been in loads of matches where I've realised the game has been slipping away, and you're all, I need to get this ball, and I need to create something, even if I have to pull down a free. I need to go down injured. I need to do something to get us on the front foot again. But looking back in that game, it's hard to say. I don't ever think we were going to be beat. It didn't feel like we were going to be beat. Mayo were attacking a lot, but weren't really getting anything from it. They scored 1-9. No, it's difficult to pinpoint. But I talked earlier about Shane O'Neill and Peter Rafferty recognising his ability to man mark Sean Kavanagh. He was brought on from Alkimaka and scored a winning point. Johnny Murder, Cross McLean, another sort of recognised name we got a few runs at senior level, was brought on, Brian Mallon and stuff, So although Mayo were on top a lot, I never felt like we were losing the game. Even now, back then, I might have said, Jesus, we were lucky. But no, looking at that team, it's hard to imagine ever felt like we were going to lose.
And at that time, Paddy, we get it up on screen here. It was really a golden age for Armagh football. If you look back at it, that's from 1998, the under-21s won the Ulster Championship in 1998, all the way to the minors winning the All-Ireland in 2009. Like, that's, was that 11 years? And I think I counted the only time Armagh didn't win something, either the All-Ireland or Ulster, was in 2001 or 2003, and obviously the seniors got to the All-Ireland final. So, like, that must have been a brilliant time to be an Armagh fan.
Yeah, I could say it was class. It was absolutely class. And as I say, I was too young to really appreciate it. The sort of the people who have been older that have been going to Armagh games, in the 70s and 80s and the sort of early 90s, and realised, look, it's not like this for me an Armagh supporter. I was sort of 17 in 2002, but that was my whole sort of teenage years, and then into my 20s was just constantly going to Armagh games in the car to Clonus, go to, there was a good few replays as well, Ulster finals, just all them great games. And then we had a great run that minor championship in 2009. That was such a good team, and if you were to put up that team as well, Sean, you'd see how much that has done for us in terms of producing players over the last 10 years or so. But yeah, look, that was brilliant. It was absolutely brilliant those days. Like, the memories that you have were just fantastic. Even when that National League in 2005 gained something Armagh had never done before, and as I say, probably didn't appreciate it. And the one thing that, to be honest, always stands out to me, Sean, is that Ulster Championship in 2008. And maybe Armagh had a couple of retirements, and for that team to win an Ulster Championship was a really, really good achievement. But just because we were all still in the almost like the bubble of the previous 10 years, then only got beat by Wexford, it was seen as a massive disappointment. But yeah, look, brilliant days and such. The players that produced that and that gave us all that enjoyment over that decade. We can never be thankful enough to them, because it was brilliant. And you're hoping that someday you'll get it back again. But just when you list all of that, it's hard to believe it'll ever be as good again. For Armagh, but hopefully.
And Ronan, being a young fella, obviously you were in that 2004 under-21 winning team, making the step up into the senior team as well. Like, what was it like to be a player at that stage, and you're seeing all this success? Like, the Armagh seniors won Ulster in 2004 and went on to win 3 in a row Ulsters. Like, what was it like coming into that panel and playing for Armagh at that stage?
Well, as I say, you were riding the crest of a wave. I was called into the senior panel in just after 03, 04. I was called in a couple of times and out for different reasons and injuries and different things like that. But I'll never forget my first night going to senior training. I walked into the change room. You had all these sort of heroes in the room with you, and then with Kieran McGeeney and Paul McGreen and all these boys. And then you go out onto the field and you have to get into sort of threes to kick the ball about, and you're standing beside John McEntee and Francie Belly at 19 or 20 years of age. You feel like a dwarf, you know. But you do be starstruck. You have to try and enjoy it while you were there. You had to try and make the most of it. But as a young fella, you thought it was never going to end. You know what I mean? You thought the Armagh seniors are winning Ulsters regular. They won the All Ireland. They were beaten 0-3. They should have won it 0-5. You just think it's never going to end. It's just a matter of time do you win it or do you make your break and stuff. Now for other players like Aaron and Stephen and Kieran and them boys, you know, they did go on and have great intercounty careers. I didn't. I was in loads of times, but like a few other players. But it would be worth saying that one of the biggest disappointments for me is not necessarily that I never had a senior intercounty career. There's one player in that team, and I don't think I've ever played with or played against a better player. It was Peter Toll from the Harps. It's more disappointing for me that he didn't become a household name in Ireland. Never mind Armagh. Such a serious footballer. It's no secret my admiration of Stephen Campbell from my own club. You know, his ability and his talent and his charisma and craft and all. But I would still say Peter Toll would have edged Stephen out just about with ability and just pure class. Such a footballer. That's a disappointment for me as a team, as a group from 04 that Peter didn't go on ahead. Don't know the reasons why. They're Peter's reasons, but that was a big disappointment there.
Yeah, definitely. It was some team room and some household names, and we're just running out of time here, so we'll finish it up. Thanks very much for joining us, fellas. That was a good chat, and looking back on a historic year for Armagh on a historic occasion, winning their first ever under-21 championship. And thanks very much, Paddy, again for coming on and chatting to us about it. And thanks very much, Ronan, for coming on and giving us your side of how Armagh won that All Ireland. Thanks very much, lads, and we'll see everybody next week again. We'll be back with another podcast.